I sighed and stared at my phone, reading the message from my mother for the fifth time. Monica, we need $1,500, 0 cents, for Christmas. Guests are coming. We need decorations, catering, and something new for Brielle to wear. No please, no how are you. Just another demand, like always. I'm Monica, by the way, 33 years old, living in Minneapolis, and apparently my family's personal bank. I typed, I'll send the money today, then paused before adding a second message. Am I invited to this Christmas party too? The reply came instantly, a single smiley face emoji. No words. No confirmation. Just that stupid yellow grin. I shouldn't have been surprised. It's been like this for years, but it wasn't always. When I was little, before age 10, things felt different. My parents, Kevin and Teresa, were only 21 when I was born. Back then, life was simple. Weekend hikes, story time, warm waffles on Sundays. Then came Brielle, the planned child, the golden one. From the moment she arrived, everything revolved around her. Mozart in the nursery, baby sign language classes, parenting by the book. I found our photo albums last year. For every photo of me, there were 10 of Brielle. In the rare family photos, I'm off to the side, cut off or blurry, while Brielle beams center stage. Just send the money and move on, I muttered, opening my banking app. My down payment fund for a condo in Uptown shrank by $1,500, 0 cents in seconds. Again, when I graduated college with honors, I called home, hoping for acknowledgement. You can't make it. Brielle has rehearsal. As if that explained everything. They never visited, never checked in. And yet every December, they still remembered to ask for money. I learned to survive on my own, graduated with honors, landed a job as a financial manager at a respected firm in downtown Minneapolis, just blocks from the university where I earned my degree. I carved out a life that didn't orbit around anyone else's needs. And yet, as soon as my income became steady, so did their attention. Monica, Brielle needs new boots for winter. Can you send $250, 0 cents? Monica, we're enrolling her in piano lessons. Only $400, 0 cents for the semester. I always sent the money. It barely dented my paycheck, and some small, stubborn piece of me still wanted their approval. Then 2 years ago came the real ask. Brielle got into St. Catherine's, my dad said over the phone, his voice oddly formal. We need help with tuition. I asked if she'd gotten any scholarships after all the enrichment programs and private tutoring. A long silence. Then my mother said sharply, that's not the point. You need to support your sister. Her future is more important than your pride. So I agreed. $1,200, 0 cents a month, every month. I told myself it was temporary. But months later, another call came. We bought a new SUV, gave the sedan to Brielle. You'll cover the loan, right? When I protested, my mom snapped, Stop being selfish, Monica. You're the oldest. You owe it to this family. And somehow I was sending $2,000, 0 cents a month? For tuition, for the car, for their comfort. As December rolled in, I spent another $1,000, 0 cents on gifts, a designer purse for Brielle, a new watch for Dad, and a spa gift card for Mom. Then, I loaded up my car and made the 6-hour drive to Duluth. I hadn't been home in nearly a year. But this was Christmas. Maybe this time would be different. Music and laughter spilled through the frosted windows as I stepped out of my car, arms full, overnight bag in one hand, carefully wrapped gifts in the other. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and knocked on the front door. A moment later, my mother opened it. Her smile faded the instant she saw me. Monica, what are you doing here? She asked, not budging from the doorway. I blinked. I don't understand. I sent the money. I texted you I was coming. She frowned. You did, but I didn't think you'd actually show. You usually skip these noisy get-togethers. It's Christmas, I said quietly. I never miss Christmas. With a sigh, she stepped aside. Well, you're here. Come in. Everyone's already eating. Warmth and cinnamon filled the air as I stepped inside. Laughter bubbled from the dining room. I recognized the voices. Uncles, aunts, cousins. And right at the center, glowing like a Christmas movie still, was Betrayal, in a shimmering red dress. "Look who showed up," my mother announced flatly. My father glanced up. "Monica, didn't know you were coming." He gave me a distracted one-arm hug and went back to chatting with Uncle Ron. I stood there, awkward, holding my bags. Betrayal didn't even get up. "Hey," she muttered, barely glancing at me before turning back to gossip with Cousin Melanie. I slipped my gifts under the tree, already bursting with presents, and wedged into a seat next to Aunt Grace, the only one who ever asked how I was doing. "Monica, what a lovely surprise," she said warmly, giving my hand a squeeze. "How's work?" "Good. I just got promoted to senior financial manager." "That's amazing. You always were the smart one," she said loud enough for the table to hear. I caught the flicker of irritation on my mother's face as she spooned mashed potatoes onto Betrayal's plate. Dinner passed in a blur. No one mentioned who paid for Betrayal's college or their new SUV. And when the gifts were opened, Betrayal held up the designer purse I bought her, muttered a cool "thanks," and moved on. If you've ever given everything and still felt invisible, hit subscribe, because what happens next will change everything. My parents gave a lukewarm thank you for their gifts, but the words felt rehearsed, empty. Then my mother handed me a hastily wrapped package. "This is for you, Monica." I peeled back the wrinkled paper to find a plain gray scarf. Thick, itchy wool, clearly sized for a man. I knew it immediately. It was the same brand Uncle Jim wore. He hadn't shown up this year. "Thanks," I said, forcing a smile, but inside I felt hollow. They hadn't even bothered to get me something of my own. By 11, the noise died down. Most of the extended family had left. I stood, rubbing my eyes. "I think I'll head to bed," I said, already reaching for my overnight bag. My mother glanced up from stacking dessert plates. "Oh, your old room's taken. The cousins from Brainerd are using it." "Okay, I can sleep on the living room couch," I offered. She shook her head. "That's where Uncle Dave's sleeping." "Oh, where am I supposed to sleep?" She gave a shrug. "We didn't expect you, Monica. Maybe try a hotel?" "It's Christmas Eve. Everything's booked, you know that." From the kitchen, Betrayal snorted. "Yes, there's no room at the inn, or a shelter." The words stung. I looked to my father. He met my gaze, then quietly turned away to gather empty glasses. Something cracked in me. A quiet, final break. I set the scarf on the coffee table, grabbed my things, and walked out into the freezing Minnesota night. The only hotel was full. Calls to old friends went unanswered or apologetic. So I drove, 6 hours back toward Minneapolis, stopping only for coffee and gas. Around 3 a.m., I pulled into a tiny roadside motel. "Merry Christmas," the elderly man at the desk said. "Traveling tonight?" "Family emergency," I murmured. He nodded, then handed me a small box. "Have some Christmas pie, on the house. No one should be alone today." And in that quiet act of kindness, I felt more seen than I had in years. The motel owner and I chatted briefly. He told me about his grandchildren, his favorite pie recipes, before handing me the room key. I went upstairs, ate the pie, and collapsed into bed. Exhaustion washed over me like a wave. I woke late the next day, sunlight slanting through the blinds. Christmas Day. By evening, I'd finished the long drive back to Minneapolis. My apartment was cold, dark, and empty. I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls. No one had asked if I'd made it home safely. Why would they? I wasn't family. I was a transaction, an ATM with a heartbeat. The day after Christmas, I drifted through the hours in a daze. By nightfall, I curled up on the couch and scrolled through social media, desperate for distraction. Then I saw it. Betrayal's latest Instagram post. A carousel of perfectly filtered party photos, smiling faces, glittering lights, spent Christmas with the people who matter most. I wasn't in a single photo. Something broke. I opened my banking app and stared at the scheduled payments. $1,200, 0 cents for Brielle's tuition on the 1st, $800, 0 cents for the SUV loan on the 5th. My fingers hovered. Then, one by one, I canceled both. No more, I whispered into the quiet. 2 weeks passed. Silence. No calls, no texts. I dove into work, booked an appointment with a realtor, said yes to that drink with Matt from accounting. Then, early January, my phone rang. Mom? Monica, she barked. Why was Brielle called to the financial office today? Her tuition's late. Fix it. No greeting, just demands. It's not a mistake, I said, calm. I canceled it. Silence. Then? You what? How could you be so selfish? Family helps family. You threw me out on Christmas Eve, after I funded the party, after I drove 6 hours to be there. You treated me like I didn't exist. You're being dramatic. No, I'm done. Also, I canceled the car payments. A crash. My dad's voice in the background. How did you cancel? Goodbye, Mom. I hung up. My phone lit up again. Call after call. Then the texts began. From Brielle. You petty, jealous freak. I always knew you hated me. From Dad. After all we did for you, this is how you repay us? Ungrateful. From Mom. You'll regret this, Monica. Just wait. Family is forever, and you're burning bridges you can't rebuild. That was the last message I saw before turning off my phone for the day. When I turned it back on the next morning, the notifications poured in. This time, it wasn't just my parents or Brielle. It was cousins I barely remembered. An uncle from Rochester who I saw once a year. All of them echoing the same script. You owe your parents. Family means sacrifice. I was seconds from muting everyone when a new message popped up. From Aunt Grace. Monica, sweetheart, can we talk? I'd really like to hear your side. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring. Your mother's been telling everyone that you've cut the family off, she said gently. That they paid your college, helped with your car, and now you're refusing to help Brielle in their time of need. I let out a dry laugh. None of that is true. I told her about the full scholarship, the part-time jobs, the rent I paid by working 30 hours a week. I told her about the $1,200 0 cents monthly tuition support and the $800 0 cents car payments. There was a long pause. They can't be, she whispered. Your mom told everyone at dinner last month that they're still paying off your student loans and Brielle's tuition. I've never had student loans, I said, and I can prove everything. I spent the next hour pulling together my bank statements, highlighting every recurring transfer. I added a timeline of how I paid my own way, how I'd sent money home, quietly, faithfully, for years. Then I emailed it all to Aunt Grace. An hour later, she called back. Monica, I'm so sorry. Your mother lied. Your father backed her up. I nodded. They wanted the credit without the cost. With your permission, she said firmly, I'd like to share this with the family. They deserve to know the truth. Please do, I said. For the first time in years, I felt the weight start to lift. I'm proud of you, she added quietly, and I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I saw how they treated you. I always did. After that call with Aunt Grace, I felt lighter than I had in years. 2 days later, my phone started buzzing again, but this time the messages were different. Monica, I'm so sorry for what I said. I had no idea how much you've been doing for your sister and parents. Your aunt showed us the proof. We all owe you an apology. Apparently, Aunt Grace had created a separate family group chat, one without my parents or Brielle, and had quietly shared the bank statements and my written timeline. The truth had finally come out. My cousin Emily even called me. Your parents are furious with Aunt Grace. They're saying she's turning everyone against them. All she did was tell the truth, I said. I know, and just so you know, we're on your side now. I didn't know if I wanted sides, but I had to admit, It felt good to finally be seen. Over the next few weeks, my parents kept calling. I ignored them. But I read their texts. Brielle only has 2 years left in school, my mother wrote. You can't just abandon her like this. We made mistakes, my dad messaged, but punishing your sister isn't right. Even their apologies made me the villain. Aunt Grace kept me updated. She said my parents were frantically spinning the story again, telling relatives I'd twisted the facts, that they had supported me in college. But fewer people believed them now. The statements didn't lie. How's Brielle doing? I asked Aunt Grace during one of our weekly calls. She's had to adjust, she said. They sold the new SUV and gave her back the old car. But even that didn't last. She's taking the bus now. I felt a flicker of guilt, but I let it pass. She's still in school? Yes. Your parents made a big deal about having to sacrifice to keep her there. No more designer clothes or steakhouse dinners. Does Brielle have to get a job? Part-time at the campus cafe. Your mom complains that she barely has time for social life now. I smiled. Sounds a lot like my college experience. I know, Aunt Grace sighed. I should have spoken up sooner. They always treated you and Brielle so differently. Water under the bridge, I replied, though we both knew it wasn't entirely true. Some wounds take a long time to close. Spring faded into summer. I stayed focused, working, saving, building the life I'd always dreamed of. I'd started dating someone new. Alex. Steady, kind, grounded. He valued effort, respected boundaries, and never made me feel small. I told him about my family early on. He didn't flinch, just listened. One evening in June, curiosity tugged at me. I checked Brielle's Instagram for the first time in months. Gone were the glamorous parties, the designer dresses, the flashy captions. Her latest posts were more subdued. Textbooks, latte art from the cafe, quotes about resilience. Life is harder than I thought. Nothing worth having comes for free. I stared at the screen, emotions tangled. A part of me felt vindicated. She was finally tasting the reality I'd lived since I was 18. But another part just felt sad. We'd been set up from the beginning, shaped by expectations neither of us asked for. I didn't reach out. Not yet. The wounds still pulsed beneath the surface. By fall, I'd saved enough for a down payment on a sleek little condo near my office. Signing those mortgage papers felt like a silent, personal triumph. Congratulations, homeowner, Alex said, grinning as he handed me the keys. He painted walls, built bookshelves, and made it feel like home. For once, I wasn't alone. A year after that Christmas, I still hadn't spoken to my parents or Brielle. My dad's last message came in October. We miss you, Monica. When you're ready, we're here. I didn't reply. I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure I ever would be. Aunt Grace stayed my only link to the family. That November, we met for coffee. Brielle's different now, she told me. Still working, still studying. Your parents could help, but she insists. Good for her, I said, and for once, I meant it. Do you ever think about reconnecting with them? Aunt Grace asked gently. I took a slow sip of coffee. Sometimes, I admitted. But then I remember Christmas, the lies, being kicked out after funding their celebration. She squeezed my hand. You don't owe them anything, Monica. I just want you to be happy. I am, I said, and realized I meant it. That night, cooking with Alex in our little kitchen, my phone buzzed. A post from Brielle. Life is hard, and it's supposed to be. That's how we grow. I smiled. Maybe there was hope for her. Maybe. But either way, I had peace. I had finally come home to myself. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment. Tell me what you would have done, or share your own story. Your support reminds me that walking away from toxic family isn't weakness. It's strength. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe. This journey isn't over yet.